Hello, welcome back to the Rugby Pod. I'm Andy Ryan, Big Jim and Goodey are with me as usual. We'll be taking a look back at a feisty and frenetic weekend of Premiership action and ahead to what might happen in the final round this weekend. We'll be having a look at what we might expect from Eddie Jones's England squad announcement later this week. And we're going to chat more about the British and Irish Lions with a man who went on the last tour to South Africa in 2009. Luke Fitzgerald will be joining us. Plus, we'll be answering a few of your social media questions as well. So turn up the volume, open your cloth, and make sure you've subscribed on Spotify. We have our live show coming up in 2 weeks at the Clapham Grand. It is a sellout, but you can register to watch the live stream online. And the great news is we've teamed up with Beer 52 to give everyone watching from home a free Rugby Pod case of 8 beers. So you'll have something to drink while you watch the show. Just go to beer52.com to sign up, and you can cancel at any time. So claim your free beers and use the code RugbyPod and get yourself set up for a night in with us on the 23rd of June. How are we, lads?
I speak the truth here. My back has well and truly gone. And now Andy Rowe's looking at me. We've not had the discussion yet, a conversation. I will be there.
Oh,
God. In and around Ben Nevis at the weekend, Andy Rowe. I will be there. It might be in a car, it might be on a stretcher and you dragging me up, but I will be there. So let's get that out of the way with first. But my goodness me, I've done it good and proper. I think the cause of the problem, the calf, the pulling out of all these different events, thinking I'm an absolute hero. Can you believe how ironic that it was playing touch with a bunch of bin men that has ended not only my rugby career, that has put me in this position where I'd arguably say I'm in the most pain I've ever been in my life. So I could give you 5 or 6 shout outs to the people that have helped me. No one's helped me. No one. I've got to help myself, lads. I'm in a world of bother, I'll be honest. But as you've just heard by the tone of my voice, I just get on with it, lads. You know, every day I don't moan about it. I'm positive about it. I'm fucked is basically what I'm trying to say. So effing out Mike, the poor lad. Edinburgh Castle down to Windsor Castle. He wanted the 45, let's call it 145,000 followers of Jim Hamilton, speaking in the third person, to get behind him, back him up on the bike from Edinburgh Castle. I couldn't even walk up to the castle, let alone cycle the first 120k legs. So effing out, Mike, I'm sorry. I will make it up to you. The eating mess pulled out because of the pulled calf, which was probably the prolapse disc in my back, which has now exploded. But it's not that severe, but it's very severe. But Andy Rowe, let me reiterate, I will be there on Friday to pick you lads up from the train station, you and gorgeous Chris, and by hook or by fishing hook, I will be in and around Ben Nevis cooking you dinner, and you will be dragging me up there, and we'll bang a load of it on social media, and you can tag me, and people will think I'm an absolute hero because I've done it in the pain that I'm in. But enough about me. Andrew. Good.
No. Well, let's just finish on you, Jim, before we get to me, because you talked about the eating mess, you dominate that, and you wouldn't even flinch. Then your calf went, and then you're talking about going up Ben Nevis. So then you're talking about going up Ben Nevis last week, and you said you'll be fine. You said you won't even flinch, you'll walk it backwards. And now a week later, reality's kicked in, and it's like you're old, you're decrepit, you're not Jim the legend that can just do anything. You're saying people haven't helped you out. It got that bad that Jim's phoning me going, mate, have you got any painkillers left from your operation when you had pins
Send them up
in your ankle? Post them up to me. So, I feel for you, Jim. I really do.
No, you don't.
I do, because backs are brutal. Like I did my back when I was playing for Newcastle, basically flying up and back every day. My back got sore from all the flights, but I still soldiered on, whereas reality's kicked in now, Jim. You promised the world. You're all fart no poo, mate. Promise the world and deliver absolutely nothing. I'm going to do this challenge, Just be like me, mate, and say, no, you can't do it until this weekend. I certainly can.
Andrew, before we get on to you again, I've been deep in thought, and it is one of them things where you're looking for a blame, you're looking for a claim. Now, it got me deep in thinking. Obviously, once we retire, we've seen you've had your leg fused, your ankle fused, you've had your lid done, but obviously that had nothing to do with, well, it might have done. It might have to do with your playing days that got wiped off in malls or rocks. I don't really know. I don't know how losing your hair works that bad.
My knee done. My knee as well. I had pins
there you
and
go.
plates in my knee.
You've had your knee. I have been relatively lucky in terms of I thought I could still do it. Obviously, I can't, and I've slipped this disc in my back, and it's agony. Who pays for it? Now, I'm not looking to blame. I'm not looking to claim. But that's the thing around rugby after. It got me thinking, like, we're lucky enough, thanks to Spotify, humbly, that we can dig into the piggyback and go and source treatment and whatever we need.
The piggyback or the piggy bank? Which one's that?
Okay, I see what you've done there. There ain't a back, so let's just call it the piggy bank. But it's got me thinking, like, surely us as players, right? You should. I know the RPA do unbelievable things, and we're just two of the war stories coming out of it that people can listen to. But surely there's something that you can start paying into, right? As a player, £100 a week, £100 a month, whatever it is, that when you get to 38, my age, when you get to 45, your age, and above them ages, you can start digging into that piggy bank to go and get the medical care and the physio that you need. Trying to get a physio or trying to get any kind of treatment is impossible. I rang my doctor on the NHS and he said, I can't laugh because there's a 6-month wait. There's a 6-month. I says, Doc, I'm on my fucking back. I ain't got 6 months. I'm meant to be climbing Ben Nevis at the weekend. Weren't bothered at all. So I'm not going to name drop a load of other people, but what are you meant to do within them 6 months? I'm crawling to bed. Now, who's to blame? Is it me? Is it the touch rugby lads who wouldn't stop when I'm screaming touch at the weekend? Whose fault is it? But anyway,
it's yours. Just blame yourself. Blame the bin man. Blame the bin man. Blame yourself. Blame Beck. Blame the kids. Blame anyone but me and Andy Rowe, because we ain't done anything wrong here. I've been telling you for years, don't go and play touch. Don't go and overexert yourself. You're retired. You've lost your calves. You've lost your quads. You've lost your shoulders. You've lost your chest.
I've lost my way of life.
Yeah, but you'll be back, son. You'll be back.
Can we just confirm that you will be standing on top of Ben Nevis this weekend?
Andy Rowe, that's down to you, mate. That ain't down to me. I'm telling you now, this carcass will be there with me walking shoes that haven't been walked in, so tell the blisters that. Me sticks that I've had to buy off Amazon just to get out of the car. I can't promise myself that I will be summiting, because I'm a mountaineer, on Ben Nevis. It's down to you and gorgeous Chris, mate.
Can you drive up Ben Nevis or what? Is there a driveway to get past everyone? There must be something. Get the chopper out, Jim. Just get the Spotify chopper out and it will drop you off at the top.
It's the highway to hell. That's all I know. And listeners, you'll have to come back. I don't know if I'll be here, but if I'm not here, you know what? I've done my very best trying to do my best thing by myself, basically. Look, like Beck said at home, she said you're selfish, Jim. It's all about you. It's all about what you want to do, about how much you want to put yourself out there. And I just said, I need it. And she said, well, I ain't with you. I'm not supporting you like I did back in the day. So anyway, it's enough about me, Andrew. I saw you on the bike today. I was going to say, ask how Andy Rowe was. It sounds like he's been swallowing testicles, but if you follow his social media, he had 3 likes when he was at Lord's Cricket at the weekend. So you good self, Andrew? You've been out on the bike again, haven't you?
Yeah, well, it's a long weekend for me. It started on Friday. Alarm goes off at 5 o'clock in the morning. The Blue Light Cycling Club, as we spoke about last weekend, we're doing the tour of the UK to raise money for COPS charity, which is Care of Police Survivors. So alarm goes off 5 o'clock Friday morning, have a quick shower, 4 bagels, 4 cups of coffee in the car, drive into central London for a 7 a.m. meet and start on the UK tour Blue Light Cycling Club bike ride. Started to go up to Cambridge, did a couple of hours with the boys there, then had to ride.
How long?
A couple of hours back.
You said a couple of hours. What is that? 20 minutes or like what?
A couple of hours. Couple of hours. Well, basically, it started raining, so I thought I better turn around, lads, and get back to the car. Because then,
does that include the meeting point though? Does the 2 hours mean like from when you've got in your car, or from when you've got out your car, or from when you've clicked your feet in to the pedals?
All I know is with the weight on the bike, we started off at 7 a.m. I said goodbye to the lads and lasses that are on the trip at 9 a.m. and I'm back at the starting point at 11 a.m. So to me, that's 4 hours. It doesn't matter how far it was, Jim. It was 4 hours, so I'm going to call it 20 miles each way. And then I've got back and I've had to fly up to Manchester. So I've got in my car, driven straight to Heathrow Airport, flying up to Manchester to do BT Sport. And I thought, you know what, I've done a really good thing here, raising awareness, raising money for COPS, the Care of Police Survivors charity. And I've gone up and I thought, you know what, you're working with BT Sport, had good fun there. Bit of news around this and the podcast.
What?
I'm doing BT Sport, sat in the stand just above us. was Eddie Jones, incognito with his cap on. And as you know, Jim, when you're doing a bit of commentary, sometimes you're down pitch side, then you've got to make your way up to the commentary booth. I've gone up to the commentary booth, walking up the steps, and the only way to get up to the commentary booth is walk past Eddie Jones. And I'm looking, I know he's there. He's seen me, I've seen him. Eddie's put his fist out to give it a fist bump, and he's got his mask on. I've got my mask on, and he said something. Now, I can't confirm or deny what he said, but I could have sworn I heard him say, mate, Goodey, love the fucking podcast, mate. So he's an avid listener, listens to it every week.
He is, mate. You know, it's weird you say that. I interviewed Warren Gatland last week as well. Some interesting. So I don't want to give too much away because
look at the top of here. Look at the top of here. I'm chatting to Eddie Jones. Oh, I interviewed Warren Gatland. All right, Jim,
he's my mentor, though. You know, he's like a father figure. You know, he's a mentor to me. But it's a similar thing. Just gave me that nod. You know, that nod like on Zoom where you know it means I'll listen to the pod, Jim. Like, you know that nod.
Yeah. Well, Eddie Jones, he said it. He had his mask on. I had my mask on. There was music playing, but I could have sworn I heard Goodey, mate. Love the podcast. Anyway, gone up the steps, done some commentary, finished the game. All my Harlequins, pants around your ankles. And then one of my best mates, Mark Cueto, obviously is heavily involved with sale. I thought, you know what? I'm going to go downstairs, have a few beers with him. A few beers lead to another few beers, lead to loads of gin tonics, lead to 4 o'clock in the morning, and we're still drinking at his house. And I am absolutely slippered. And you're just like, oh, anyway, go back to the hotel. It's daylight. I'm thinking, what am I doing here? It's daylight. My flight's in about 4 hours. So I've got a couple of hours sleep in, gone back home. And Saturday and Sunday were just about recovery days. So I've landed back at Heathrow, phoned the missus. I'm like, where are you? She's like, I've just gone up the farm with the twins. I thought, oh, I better just go home for a bit. She's like, no, you get yourself up to the farm here. The kids are screaming for you. And so it was just battle station Saturday, battle station Sunday, just recovery mode. You know what it's like when you've gone too hard and you've had literally no sleep, and then you get home from being away from work and the twins are causing carnage. You've just got to put a shift in, haven't you? So I did that Saturday and Sunday. And then for good measure, Monday morning, I thought, you know what, I'm going to go and join the bike ride again.
Oh, that's you. That's guilt. That's why you've done that.
Yeah,
next time, Monday round, there's guilt there.
So I've done another 45 miles with the lads and lasses today to finish off the bike ride back into London. Woking through Weybridge, all these places, couple of hills, Richmond Park, bang, getting to central London. And now I've got to Monday. It's Monday evening. We're doing the podcast. Most people get through the weekend refreshed and get back to Monday ready to go and take on the world. Not me. I'm absolutely struggling. This week's going to be a real struggle because I'm knackered already.
When you were chatting to Eddie Jones, Goodey, did he mention anything about his England squad that he's naming for the summer test against USA and Canada on Thursday? Mention who the captain might be?
Funnily enough, and you say that, you're just chatting away to him. I thought, do you know what, Eddie? You're struggling for coaches. And I thought I'd put my hat in the ring. He said, mate, do you want to come in and be a consultant nutritionalist? I said, Eddie, mate, you're taking the piss here now. Goal kicking expert, yes. How to find a shortcut in a training session, I'm your man. Nutritionalist, a little bit too much, Eddie. So, no, it was literally a fist bump. Goodey, you've got the best podcast out there with Big Jim. Fist bump, fist bump, fist bump. Eddie.
Did he know me? Did he name drop me?
No, he didn't. No, he didn't. No, he might have done. Literally, all I heard under his mask was Goodey, great podcast, mate, best in the world. We want to be the greatest podcast ever, mate. Get me on it. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean, it's that week, isn't it? When, you know, we've got a squad being announced. We've seen the Scotland squad last week. We've seen the Wales squad announced today. There's obviously loads of players from England, Wales, Scotland, and Ireland being picked on the British and Irish Lions tour. So you're looking for the next tier of players. And obviously from England's perspective, you know, some quality out there. Max Malins at fullback ripped it up again at the weekend. Harry Randall back from injury. I thought he ripped it up as well. So he'll be in
the shout. And go.
Yeah, Marcus Smith will play at 10, hopefully. You know, hopefully we're going to see Manu Tuolangi promoted up to the British and Irish Lions at some point, which I'm sure he will be over the next sort of month or so. So then you're looking at players like Ollie Lawrence, this young breed of players. And Eddie Jones said it himself, didn't he? He did some press last week. I'm still trying to work out why he did some press. Was it just so he could get his name out there? Maybe he wanted to come on the podcast.
No, he was sticking up for himself for coaching in Japan and coaching in America, but no one can travel. You can travel, but don't wear a mask and wear a mask. And coach Bowden Barrett. That's why he was doing press. It was a time that he needed to basically do press for the country that he coaches. But I'm not being horrible, Eddie. You know me and I know you.
There we go. And that's the thing. So looking at a lot of younger players that Eddie's come out and said he needs a younger squad to win the World Cup in 2023. So I think we're going to see some young players. Freddie Stewart at fullback, he's got a fair chance of being picked as well, alongside Maylands. I think Maylands deserves a full shot at starting at fullback. In the forwards, you've got players like Will Stewart, Genji, who actually, you kind of look at him and go, well, he's an international regular now, but he doesn't start many test matches. So it'll be a good opportunity for Ellis Genji, I think, to start a test match. Second row is the interesting one because you've got obviously Marrow and Johnny Hill on the lines to Courtney Laws as well. Charlie Ewells, I'm sure, will be involved. Jim, your thoughts on other second rows? David Ribbons potentially was playing like he deserved it, and then he's obviously got sent off at the weekend. And with only one game left for Northampton this year that you can count as a ban, it just depends on the severity of the ban for him. That might have cost him, a couple of test matches.
I reckon it might have done. Dave Atwood, I don't know whether he'll want to go. He's not retired as
He's too old though, isn't he?
Mate, doesn't matter. I reckon.
I'm only saying that Dave Atwood's playing exceptionally well, but I'm only saying he's too old off the back of what Eddie Jones said on his Zoom interviews he did last week, where he needed to basically make some excuses for going to coach abroad in England, getting the worst place ever in the Six Nations, and all the coaches leaving. But Dave Atwood deserves it on form. But again, does it suit the age demographic that Eddie's after?
I thought George Martin was wicked at the weekend.
Did you see him smash Nathan Hughes?
And that's I text Deeks and I said he's back because his form dipped a little bit. I don't know whether he was injured or Borthos rested him. I don't know what the story was with him. Is he a second row? He's lost a lot of timber. Not that he had a load of timber on him. Maybe it's a bit of puppy fat, but he looks leaner. And I'm like, is he a six? Is he a second row? And I've spoken about him before. At the weekend against Bristol's, he was wicked. So he's definitely going to be in off the back of that. I said to you, the second rows are hard, aren't they? Because Launchbury's injured, but he's aging as well. Right. You mentioned David Ribbons, and he obviously took the high shot. You're looking at a 6-week down to a 3-week ban. So where does that leave him potentially? Alex Moon as well. He's been on the bench for Northampton. He was in and around it. Stookie as well was in and around it, I think, before. So I'm trying to think. I don't know where the next locks are coming through. But Nick Ezekwe, he's been playing back row, second row. He got a few caps, didn't he, under Eddie Jones?
Sean Robinson up at Newcastle might have a dig. Yeah.
So it's Cam Henderson, who's been playing at Leicester, sworn his allegiance to Scotland. He looks really good as well. That's a relevant thing to say, but he is. But yeah, I think the back row will be interesting, won't it? Will he cap Don Brandt?
He's got to.
Of course. So Alex Don Brandt, you've got Ben Earls as well, who's a fantastic player. I don't know how far he would have been from the Lions, but yeah, he's good.
Ted Hill as well.
Off the back of that try last week, the bogey team against Leicester, not seeing much. I don't watch much of Worcester, to be honest. I'll just go top end. Poor team.
Maybe an horrible, Jim.
Yeah, well, I'm just speaking frankly, but there's a load of noise around Ted Hill as well. Andrew, hit me with some more.
I'm stuck.
It's going
to be young.
Had a shot, wouldn't he, from Quins?
Yeah, I think back rowers. It depends on Underhill whether do you make Underhill captain? That as a shout. You've got some. Do you play Billy Vanapola? Because actually, as much as we say, they shouldn't have played in the Six Nations because they haven't played any rugby. He hasn't played that much rugby, so maybe he's hungry for it.
Well, it'll be down to if he's next in line for the Lions, won't it, for Billy?
Yeah, I can't see Billy ever getting picked for the Lions while Warren Gatman's head coach. After what he said last time, after the 2017 tour, he said,
"Oh yeah, true.
If Eddie Jones had been coach, we'd have won that series 3-0. He ain't getting picked. Navidi's going to be picked before him if there's injuries. CJ Stander pulling him out of retirement. Who knows? But I can't see Billy Vanapola pulling the Lions jersey at all.
Let's have a look at the Premiership now. And there's only one real place to start, isn't there? What on earth happened at the end of Bristol's win over Leicester?
Love it. I love drama.
Yeah.
And the funny thing about it is, Andrew, now, I don't know how much you watch the engagement, but I put a tweet up, of course I did, just see if I can get a few more followers. I did, I got about 300 more. Let's get this out of the way. Well, there's a couple of things I want to make about this. I want Leicester to win, right? I wanted Leicester to win. I want Leicester to win. I wanted Leicester to qualify for the top 8. So my bias lies with Leicester, right?
So what you're saying is you're biased.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, but I wasn't on my tweet, and that comes down to it. Also, what happened in the game does not affect my life at all, right? So it ain't personal. Like when I'm tweeting it or I'm watching it, it's sport, right? And the people getting angry and shouting cheat and it's ridiculous and F this and F that and S that and see that. Someone might have said the C word, which arguably is the best swear word in the dictionary of swear words. But I'm siding here with Bristol on that specific interaction of the game. Now, Andrew, do you want me to give you my recollection of how I saw it? Right?
Yeah, you go for it.
So as we know, it was a proper game. Leicester, proper physical. Bristol's arguably in third or fourth gear, looked like they were going to win the game or going to find a way to win the game. Leicester start turning the screw. So let's fast forward. Leicester start turning the screw at the end, going back to what we've seen of Leicester in recent weeks. More into the cowsheds and back, scrum into the cowsheds and back. Now, this is where it gets interesting, right? They get a scrum at the end of the game. They get a penalty at the end of the game. I personally would have kicked a corner, right? That's what I would have done off the back of Leicester's history, right? Scrums up in the air about what can happen. Nonetheless, Leicester go for the scrum. Great idea at the time because they win 3, 4, 5 penalties off the back of it, right? Tempest goes to his book and Simbins the Bristol replacement prop. Skavanich, right? So anyway, let's speed through that. Then you find yourself in a situation, right? You're Leicester. You've gone through the whole process of scrumming to the cowsheds and back. They want a scrum. The testosterone is high, right? The baby rhino is keen for more, okay? So you've got John Afoa, the poor bugger. He's 40 years old. Let's just say he's 45 years old. He's been pulled off at 41 minutes. Weren't meant to play apparently anyway. Carl Sinclair was meant to play. So John Afoa was rocked up. He stepped up. Imagine, right, sitting on the bench, even if you're 25 years old and being like, right, off you go, sir. No one, but fuck warming up the neck. You're on. So Pat Lam comes down to the bench. No mask on, right? No mask on. I don't know. It might be exempt. And all the Leicester bench are screaming at John Afoa, get on there. He's fine. Get on there. It's tactical. Get on there. And I'm thinking, you don't want to wind a 42-year-old Kiwi up, like who can scrum to the cowsheds and back. But nonetheless, that's what we're doing. He sat there on his hands, right? He's like, I ain't that keen to go on. You got the baby rhino is literally testosterone fueled up to the eyeballs. John Afoa at 42. I don't know when you start losing testosterone, but I think it's at 38, which is the age I am at now. They're all screaming, get yourself on. Pat obviously comes down mass free, and they're trying to work out whether John Afoa can go back on. One, did he come off because he was injured? He didn't come off, he was injured. But what he was trying to say was, he'd come off because he weren't meant to be playing, and they're trying to look after him. Now, is it safe to put him back on in a scrum? Then obviously Ian Tempest said, well, if he doesn't go back on, Bristol's, you need to yank another player off because you can't put John Afoa on because it was tactical and it was an injury. So therefore, we need to give Leicester the opportunity to try and win the match in that way. Anyway, as that's happening, John Afoa gets up to go. Steve's like, yes, thank you. Like, as in, like, you've said you're going to go back on, he's going to go. Then Steve's like, no. He starts squaring up. He's like, no. Like, you know, he said he's injured. He said, so all of a sudden there's this fucking carnage going on. Pat Lam's saying, if he goes on, Pat Lam's like, if he goes on as injured, tell me it's on you. So, you know, they've all got the bushes out. They're all peacocking. Fast forward, John Afoa goes on. He's the last man you want to go on for a scrum as well because he's that good. Let's just say he absolutely hoses Genji, beep. Ball is in and around the back row's feet. Who knows? It doesn't matter where it is. Leicester have just been hosing the scrum, ball out, game over, Bristol's win. And then there's uproar, right? There's uproar around, you know, are they cheating? Do you know what I mean? Is it bad sportsmanship? And then, Andrew, I'll leave it over to you, mate. I weren't that bothered. Like, I thought that interaction there in that moment, like John Afoa, he can either go back on because it was tactical, all right? And it's up to him, really. It's up to the manager. It's up to the medics. Ian Tempest says to him when he's on the pitch, you look stiff as fuck, but either way, are you good to go? Like, are you all right? Are you fit to play? John Afoa says yes. So there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. The big thing lies around that kind of interaction on the bench and, you know, Leicester feel like they're stitched up. If I was Leicester and I wanted Leicester to win, I'd be annoyed that it took that many penalties to see a sin bin in. Should it have been a penalty try? No, because the scrums were going down. They weren't being pushed back, as it were. But
I'll
go back to it, Andrew. Fucking love the drama.
Well, G3 has asked on Twitter, why no penalty try at the end of Leicester Bristol game, blatant repeated violations in the scrum, even before Lamb's gamesmanship?
Well, you can't, for penalty tries, the referee has to be certain that a try is going to be scored. So from the penalties that were given away at scrum time, Leicester would never go in forward at a rate of knots where the 8's controlling the ball and it looks like they're going to score and then the scrum drops. It was all infringement. So all the actual referee can do is just go to his yellow card. The argument is, should he gone to his yellow card earlier? And that's the debate, really. So you can only give a penalty try if the referee is certain that a try was going to be scored and an act of foul play has stopped that from happening. And you can't look at those scrums and say they were definitely going to march them over, because it was, although he was giving penalties away, it was straight away at engagement and as the balls come in and all that stuff. So it's never a penalty try. But first thing I'll say is Ian Tempest handled that first part of it exceptionally well. And the worst thing for me that from Pat Lam was to say, if he goes on and he gets injured, that's your responsibility. And I thought that was a bit naughty from Pat Lam. And I'm sure Pat regrets that, because he's then tried to put the onus on the referee for a player getting injured, which isn't fair at all. It's not his fault. And actually, when you look back on it and sum it all up, what actually happened is the fact that it was a tactical substitution at half time on the card. He ends up going back on anyway. So they haven't actually done anything wrong in terms of the process of what they did, of taking John O'Farrell off for a tactical, and then eventually he goes back on.
That's what they wanted. That's what they wanted. Leicester was screaming for him to go back on.
It's the way it all manifested itself. So Steve Borthwick would have probably got what he wanted of John O'Farrell not going back on, because he flipped, didn't he? So Borth has come down and he's realised that John O'Farrell can actually go back on. It's tactical. And he was like, he said he's good to go. You're lying, get him on. When Pat Lam was saying he was injured. So then they work out, he said, well, eventually it all comes down. Ian Tempest says to them, look, he goes back on if it's tactical and he can do it. He goes back on, you go back to 13 players. And to be fair to Pat Lam's like, okay, fine. And then they walk off. And John O'Farrell is obviously seeing all this develop. He's the one in the middle going, well, I can do it. So fuck it, I'll go and do it. And
he put the DP. You see, he put the DP on the back of the neck. He was good to go.
Mate, the DP is the thing that saves everything. So, apart from your nutsack. So I think when you look at it, Pat Lam manipulated the situation, but actually, when you're looking back on it, there wasn't actually anything that they did against the rules or laws, because they went tactical. When John O'Farrell, I'm sure he didn't want to go back on initially, and then when they realised the fact that you're going down to 13 men. It was only going to be an uncontested scrum anyway, but then you've still got to have 8 forwards in that scrum. So Leicester would have been attacking from a scrum, if you'd have gone to the scrum, from 5 metres out, an uncontested scrum, but you've only got 5 defenders left if you're Bristol's, because you've got 8 in the pack, you've got 5 backs, and then that totals 13. So you'd expect Leicester to score from an uncontested scrum, because you only got to make 5 minutes over the game line to make it happen. So I'll just give it to Nandolo. He'd have definitely scored. But I think in Steve Borthwick insisting that he wanted the testosterone, I think in Steve Borthwick insisting that John O'Farrell said he's fit, the testosterone's flowing, as Jim said. And then you see Richard Wigglesworth come over, whisper something to Steve Borthwick. And I'm sure Wiggy knows the game as a scrum half, as most halfbacks know the game. Probably said they're going to go down to 13 men if he doesn't come back on. And then Borthwick flips again and says, no, he said he's injured. You're lying. So it's not a good look. Pat definitely manipulated the system. Sorry, Pat definitely manipulated the situation slightly. And when John O'Farrell said he's good to go, he's good to go. But the one thing that frustrated me the most is, and where I think the officials might have got it slightly wrong, that last scrum, whether it was legal or not, what John O'Farrell was doing, because people said he was going at the angle, whatever. The ball was still in, and Andy Oren has taken the ball out of the scrum. The ball was still in, to me, like the back of the scrum, as it's come through the second row's feet, in between the 6 and the 8, and he's just picked the ball up, kicked it out, ref's blown up. Now, the big thing for me is, and I did a column for Rugby Pass, is when you're looking at that, the TMO needs to be able to judge and come in on something that is game deciding like that at the end of the game, to see whether they did
regardless of the drama and the leader, because that was the thing. I think everyone just wanted to get to Zanzibar, didn't they? I don't know if it was over in Leicester, but Tempo wanted in there, mate.
Yeah. And the other thing on it is, no one's really said this, but what's John Arthur's reaction in citing Richard Wigglesworth, who then judo rolls him onto the floor? But you could have done John Arthur for unsporting behaviour and penalise him for that. But it was just the height of emotions for everyone, wasn't it? So whilst actually when you break it down, they didn't change the cards or manipulate the situation, said someone was injured when they weren't or whatever. They followed actually the protocol led by Ian Tempest, by the fact that it was a tactical substitution at half time. He tried to say he was injured. He wasn't. John Arthur was going for it full beans, 48 years of age, 480 grand a year. That's how you earn your coin.
How good to see Leicester in a ding-dong, though. Let's just finish on that. As in, how good to see a Leicester team in that moment as fired up instead of just fluffing about doing nothing. I was well happy to see them back in that testosterone-fueled drama. Let's fucking go.
Yeah, it's great. And this weekend they play Wasps in what is probably a shootout to see who guarantees himself European rugby. I think Wasps and Leicester will both end up in it. But yeah, Leicester are back to their old ways in terms of the physicality, scrum time, set piece, all that hard-nosed stuff that has gone missing over the last few years. It's great to see them back, and hopefully that will build again into next year, and hopefully they get Champions Cup rugby as well as Wasps do as well, because it's very important that three clubs in the Midlands, including Northampton, are in the Champions Cup next year.
You mentioned Wasps, Goodey. It was a game of two halves for them, wasn't it?
Mate, ridiculous game. I'm watching the first half, and we've been out for the day with the Twins, and I've got back. I nearly turned it off at half time, 33-10 down, when it's a must-win game for Wasps to try and qualify for the Champions Cup. And I'm like, oh, the Pelters are coming. But I couldn't work it out. So I've recorded it at home, and I've watched it when we got home. Like, it's way after the game. And I'm like, why am I at 33-10 down? Why am I not getting loads of abuse on my phone for how shit Wasps are? Normally from Jim, normally from other people as well. And I thought, there's nothing. I wonder what's happening there. So I watched the second half. What a game. I mean, Irish must be absolutely kicking themselves. How you give up a 33-10 lead at half time? They literally scored 3 points in the second half, switched off completely. Wasps came out and it was like a different team. Tom Willis was monstrous. Dan Robson to the fore as well. Josh Bassett off the wing. It was, everyone talks about cliches, and you said it yourself, Andy. A game of two halves. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like it, to be honest. And then the finish, I think Wasps deserved to win it in the end. They've lost a few towards the death, and they've missed out, hence where they are in the league. But massively important to get that 5-point victory, and it just meant so much to the boys. And you see Dan Robson, you see Jack Willis there in the stands.
How good was that with his brother at the end?
Yeah, amazing. Nice. So yeah, it boils down to this weekend. You feel for London Irish a bit because they were brilliant in the first half. Curtis Rona was, he's quality. He's big, he's powerful. He's one of the best 13s in the league. But they just switched off, didn't they? And I'm actually delighted, obviously, because Wasps play Leicester this weekend. The Andy Good Suite is back open. Of course it is.
Are you there?
Hosting. Yeah, I'm up there hosting the Andy Good Suite. Wasps against Leicester. And whoever wins definitely goes into the Champions Cup. But I definitely think I can't see London Irish going to Bristol's and winning unless Bristol put the children out. So you'd hope, from a purely selfish perspective, I want to see Leicester and Wasps in the Champions Cup next year. You'd hope that those two have done enough to get in now, but you'll only find that out about 5 p.m. next Saturday afternoon.
And Exeter almost matched Wasps. They came back from 18-0 down at half time to win away at Northampton, didn't they?
How good, Northampton. That I don't want to say it's the best I've seen them play, but in terms of physically, at the breakdown, my word. And even when they went down to 40 men with David,
they're only 5-0 up, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. So they're only 5-0 up when he goes off, and you're thinking, all right, Exeter are going to come out, and they obviously did after half time. And I'm going off on a tangent here. Summer rugby, the quality of rugby that we've seen, and how exciting it is, how quick the breakdowns are. Players passing the ball because they can, because there's a bit of space. It's harder underground. This kind of weather, you talk about London Irish, how well they played, Northampton as well, the quality of players that they've got.
Yeah.
And I'm watching that game and I'm thinking, I almost tweeted it. I didn't. It's a one-liner. How fucking good's the Prem? Said that F word a few times today, but it's exaggerate how good it is. You know, Exeter as well, in terms of how they play, how physically they are. Sorry, Exeter with how they play and how physical they are, and we know that they are. But Northampton, what they did to them physically around the breakdown, in some of their carries, Rory Hutchinson as well was fantastic. Proctor, I know you're a big fan of Proctor. How's Rory Hutchinson not in the Scotland squad? But anyway,
how's that possible?
I don't know.
What about his try? The little chip from Bigger and then the little nudge. I mean, he's done hoggy, isn't he?
You mentioned Courtney Laws last week, and I only watched the highlights. So watching it back, watching Courtney Laws, their two British and Irish Lions, Dan Bigger and Courtney Laws for Northampton, were phenomenal.
Yeah.
Dan Biggaroo was brilliant. Tom Wood, physical again. It's the best I've seen Lewis Ludlam play as well for a while. He's been good, but in terms of carrying, physicality, but Exeter, it's the Chiefs, isn't it? Oh, Stu Townsend. What about
he came on, did really well.
What about when he scored and Yendel was trying to pull his hair out? So it's obviously a thing down there, isn't it? Well, obviously it's a thing because they're ruthless with their banter. But look, this season's been brilliant. Like, it's right down to the wire. Obviously, Northampton have qualified anyway for the top 8. But it takes us into this final weekend. And this is the whole thing. I think you're an advocate for this top 8. You know, the last 16 in the Champions Cup. Maybe this is the kind of reboot that we wanted, but it's been a hell of a season. Summer rugby is what I'm saying. Wouldn't have liked to have done that as a player, but as a fan, definitely.
Well, let's turn our attention to the British and Irish Lions now. And Kyle Sinkland's been called up to the squad to replace the injured Andrew Porter. We've had a tweet come in. At Horse Roar has asked, other than Kyle Sinkler, whose performances since not making the Lions squad have been the biggest two fingers to Warren Gatlin?
Oh, don't you put two fingers up to my mentor. Firstly, fair play to Carl Sinclair. It comes around, doesn't it? We all saw the emotion in the interview to the leader, whatever you made of that interview. Nonetheless, it showed how important it was for him, how disappointed he was. He's in. So fair play to him. I'm gutted for Andrew Porter. I had him in my Lions squad. I think he's been brilliant. You know, a toe injury is a nasty injury to have as a prop. That's for sure. Ellis Genge, potentially. Joe Marler as well, the way that he scrummaged. So a couple of loose heads there thrown into the mix. Yeah, I think so. The way he scrummaged.
Obviously, with it, there's going to be other players as well. I believe there's going to be other players that will, before that plane takes off for South Africa, won't be on the plane. They're in the squad. Now, it's a horrible thing to say, but it always happens, doesn't it? You hope not. Loads of players on standby. Like Jim said, Ellis Genge obviously has played exceptionally well. I don't know whether he's in the mix though, isn't he? Because he said he didn't even get a letter or an email. So it'd be interesting to see what happens. All the international squads are nearly being named. Obviously, England's is this week. So a lot of it will boil down to, if you're in the mix, you're definitely going on one of those tours because you want to stay competitive while that happens.
Well, speaking of the Lions and their series against the Springboks, we're going to have a chat now with a man who was there the last time the Lions toured South Africa. Former Ireland and British and Irish Lions winger Luke Fitzgerald joins us. How are you, mate?
Andy, how are things?
Good. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, mate. Let's just start off with a bit of breaking news that came out over the weekend, over the last couple of days. I don't know what you were like in this position when you got picked in 2009, but it must be quite difficult playing the last few games, especially when there's not much in it. But poor Andrew Porter being injuring his toe, and now being out of the British and Irish Lions, obviously a Leinsterman, an Irishman. Like, how horrible is that for him?
Yeah, look, obviously everyone's really disappointed for him, and particularly when it's like a toe injury. Like, look, you do hear a lot of front rowers, and Jim, you'll be aware as a second rower, they are really important, particularly for your scrummaging, that your toes are fit and healthy, so it is a very key injury. It seems like, a big lad like him, going down with a toe injury, but it is a key area for him. So very disappointing. All you can do is just keep playing as hard as you can. The moment you kind of step back, the you guys will know, that's when you get injured. So look, it's an unfortunate one. But look, Kyle Sinclair's playing brilliant as well. He was very unlucky to miss out. I think, despite, everyone being delighted that, Andrew got selected, I think everyone was very, surprised that Kyle Sinclair, having been on the last tour, wasn't in. So from the Lions' perspective, I don't think they lose out on too much, even though I suppose the versatility would have been nice with Andrew being able to play on both sides of the scrum. So good on Kyle. I mean, obviously you got a lot of press after that interview. He was very, raw and honest. He kept playing hard throughout, and he gets the reward for someone else obviously having a a bit of bad luck. So good on him, and I think the Lions don't lose out on too much.
No, certainly not. And you talk about selections, and obviously your Irishness is coming through, if that even is a thing, Irishness.
It is.
Let's be honest. Let's be honest, right? The Irish and the Irish media and a lot of people were not happy with Warren Gatland picking so few Irish internationals compared to what they thought. Obviously some of them are fairly justified selections and non-selections, and some of them from an Irish perspective, they weren't happy, were they? Warren Gatland hasn't got a great relationship with Ireland anymore, has he? And do you think there's something in that, or is it just a case of it's just an opinion and it doesn't really matter that there's a bit of bad blood between Ireland and Warren Gatland?
I think he's always, we had a really, fairly unprecedented run of success with Joe Schmidt. But the only guy who seemed to be consistently able to kind of unpick him was Warren Gatland. And like the job he did with Wales, I think it's probably envy rather than, a hatred. He's an unbelievable operator. Like, I think I would always say at times that I feel like he's an odd enough selector, but he generally gets it right. And I think the key part, and you guys will be aware, I think as well, getting everyone moving in the same direction is the key thing with being a coach. And he always does that. So even regardless of the selections, while there was definitely a few disappointed ones, and we'll probably touch on them, I always think he's a great coach, and I think he'll get it right out there. In terms of the guys who probably stand out, Goody, to be a bit more direct about it, I think the Sexton one, while he's injured, is surprising. I think he, particularly when I thought Finn Russell, yes, an excellent player. I think if you look at how Sexton matched up in the Six Nations, particularly, he was very, very good. I mean, particularly in the Scotland game, got that kick at the end as well, but he was brilliant throughout the campaign and finished a lot of games, which is the big concern with Sexton, I suppose, for lots of people. The James Ryan one, particularly, I think probably stood out as well. Don't think he's been unbelievable since, he's had a few knocks, wasn't unbelievable in the Six Nations, but I think particularly after the Exeter game, I think there was a bit of surprise from a few of the Leinster guys that the La Rochelle game on the flip side was picked out as Leinster not being physical enough. But if you saw what they did to Exeter in that match, that was really a bit of a head scratcher for lots of guys over here, in terms of why they weren't selected based on their lack of physicality against La Rochelle, particularly when they did a serious number, I thought, on Exeter, having gone behind 14 points. So they're probably the ones that stand out, Goody. That was probably what caused a few of the. I think there was a bit of people understood that. They did understand why they weren't selected. There was a little bit of chatter about that over here, but I think people were still surprised because they felt the Six Nations would really be the basis for that. And then I thought when they looked at the Exeter stuff, they would have said, well, geez, and Leinster did a real number on them. So I felt like it wasn't really fair or a level playing field in terms of the selection policy. So that's probably why that was.
And with Johnny Sexton, and again, we've had a few jokes on here about him being too old and stuff like that, and I ended up eating my words.
That, Jim, that's you saying that. Let's just clear that up. Not we, less of the we, just you.
Very true. I'll put my name to it, Luke. But with Johnny Sexton, I'm sure that there's a stat out there that he's not strung 3 or more games together or something like that since 2018. Something that I think when you delve into it, I mean, with Johnny and how proud he is, I know he's not heavy into social media and we've not seen anything over here. Has he come out and said anything in the media, or has he just kept a low profile? Has anything been said kind of from anyone close to him around it? Because, like, obviously it is a big deal. It is a headline over in Ireland with him not going.
No, I don't think so. And I'd say he'd very much be in the picture if one of the guys went down anyway.
Yeah.
The key part for him was always going to be getting back. I think he's really pushing hard for a game against the Dragons next Friday. Because I said that's the last chance for him to be in the shop window. The only thing I would say is he's come back from long periods out of injury and played really well. And I think lots of the chat about the 3 games in a row, I think the feeling over here was that he put that to bed in the Six Nations, having done that. I always feel if you look at his numbers, there's probably a certain element of that. He's a physical enough guy. He gets stuck in and he's definitely a target. But I would have said, he oftentimes, because of his importance to Ireland, if they're ever winning a game comfortably, he won't finish it. They just pull him after 20, which I think, there's 2 sides to that. I thought it's actually a bad habit for a player to get into anyway. But because of his importance, the coach would have got milled if he got taken out in a game that you're winning in the last 10 minutes. So there was a bit of that as well in terms of the numbers. So I'd be careful about maybe having I have to have a really close look at that. I think in most of the big games, you'll see he generally would finish them. He's a really key guy for them. And I think if you look at the head-to-head with Finn Russell, That was the one that probably stood out in that Scotland match, that everyone was going to say, well, you can clearly see there's a difference between them. And I would feel going out on the tour that, yes, Finn Russell's I love watching Finn Russell, but like he nearly cost him the game against England, I thought. And I think he's a bit up and down in the big games. Like, yes, he's flashy. He could be good off the bench, but can he really start on the Lions tour? Is he ever going to be in with a chance of starting ahead of Owen Farrell or ahead of Biggar? And I don't feel like that's a real possibility. I really believe that. I don't think there's enough games for him to really prove that. And I would say if Johnny went, that there is a chance of him starting. So are you bringing someone out to sit on the bench for you, possibly to bring something different, or are you bringing people out who can start and win test matches for you? And I think that was probably the debate, Jim, over here. Again, lots of people really love watching Finn Russell, and people know he's a great player, but I actually didn't think he had a really good Six Nations. I think he's been brilliant for Racing, if I'm being honest on that front. So that's probably the surprise on my end, Jim.
Let's talk back three then, mate, your area of expertise. Obviously loads of competition there. The standout player really from nowhere has been Lewis Rees-Zammit, who has just got silly wheels. Do you reckon he could play test match rugby over it for the Lions, or is he a midweek player? And what would your starting back three be in the test series?
Good questions. Yeah, I think he can. I thought he was brilliant for Wales. He looks like a big guy. You think of South Africa, you always think they've got wheels on the outside. So, you probably want to match someone up with great pace out there. And probably there's a few of the guys that, they don't have the out and out pace that he has, but they're probably better footballers. So yes, I do think he can start. I think he's one of those guys that probably would need to play extremely well in one or two of those games, like be a real standout in a fairly tough fixture. So that probably some of the later fixtures really. Whether he gets a chance to do that, I don't know. To my mind, starting back three is going to be, look, Hogg is a shoe-in. I just think with his kicking game, particularly on the high veld as well, that's a real addition for the team. And I think his attacking prowess. He's so good going forward. He's a cert for me. I like Liam Williams. I'm just a huge fan.
Always turns up, eh?
But he's great under the high ball. You'll definitely get tested down there with that. He's really brave. He's tough. He's a smart footballer as well. You're going to need someone who wants to be in the physical side of the game down in South Africa. It's just a different. You guys, I'm sure you've played down there. It's a different level down there. So he's a guy I'd love to have in the trenches with me down there. I'd be finding a way to get him in the team. The last guy I have in there is Anthony Watson. I actually thought he was very good for England in the Six Nations. Yeah. So, they're probably my three standouts. But would I have Zammit in there? Yeah, I'd love to see him get a go. He's going to be a superstar in the future. There's no doubt about that. But has he got that little bit of polish that you probably really like? You do get very exposed, I think, in the outside channels against those three Southern Hemisphere teams, and they all have great pace and finishers. So, does he have the experience and that little bit of nous that you need at international level to survive out there? Because there's going to be times where you're going to be on your own, and you're going to have to be comfortable out there defending against a guy with great, like your Chelsea Colbys or one of these guys. Yeah, does he have the experience and the calmness and at international level to do that? It takes a while to get that, so we wait and see. I'd love to see him out there though.
Yeah, and you mentioned we know what it's like playing against South Africa. I've played against them a few times, and they were never that close, really. Let's be honest. But looking back, been doing a bit of work for the Famous Grouse over the last few months, and I've gone through the Test matches, obviously that you guys played, and everyone speaks about that second Test match in 2009. And sometimes when you look back on games, people say, "Oh yeah, it was one of the best Test matches." You'd be like, "Yeah, all right." I'm telling you now, if any listeners haven't seen that game, get it on YouTube. 2009 second Test match. Luke, you were obviously in the middle of that, and you can maybe give us a kind of wider. Let's talk about your eye being pulled out by Scott Berger. Let's get a headline. What happened there? And
one eye. You've only got one eye.
One eye, and you talk about the physicality. Come on, what's it like?
My mates still give me, like, anytime we're on the piss and it comes up, they all go, "Oh, my eye!" They absolutely love that. It was an astonishing decision because we were privy enough to the conversation between touch judge and referee, and he blatantly said it was an eye gouge. It was bizarre that he only got a yellow card. I suppose he was on his 50th cap. It would have been hard enough for him to get out alive of Loftus Versfeld if he'd given a red card, but that was obviously a crazy moment. But look, to get to the real important stuff, it was an unbelievable game. As you said, like, if anyone watching that game, I mean, probably the standout memory, really, aside from obviously the loss, was really disappointing, right? And we probably threw away a few easy ones. In terms of tries off set pieces, they're always disappointing ones to give away. But I think the halftime changing rooms was probably my real memory of it. If you ask any of the guys who were in there, like it was a proper war zone. There was people kind of wincing, and kind of shouting, like getting shoulders put back in. It was played at a ferocious pace as well. So everyone was kind of, it was fairly frantic as well. For the first couple of minutes, it was an amazing experience. Like even coming into the ground in Loftus Versfeld, they're throwing kind of beer at the bus. And as much as you're kind of getting you're G'd up going to the hotel, you get your jersey, there's a pre-match speech from Willie John McBride or whoever it is. It's definitely a cauldron, and it's a brilliant place to play rugby. And all the big staffers are out with their braais, had a few beers, and it's very, very all of South Africa is very much hostile enough at the stadiums, really friendly afterwards and around the place, but it's a super place to play rugby, and you've got to front up. And that match it's the best rugby match I've ever played in, despite the result. Purely the quality and the commitment from everyone involved. I mean, it was just it was an amazing experience. Yeah, disappointing, but great.
And on that game, obviously it's been played at Loftus Versfeld at altitude. The British and Irish Lions players aren't going to be used to it. How quickly were you adapting to it? Because having played there, the games are it's so hard to explain how different the games can be. And you can see those areas, but you can see that intensity, and you're blowing literally out your arse from minute 5, aren't you? Because of the altitude. Do you think it's going to have a massive part to play again this summer? Do you think it gives them a huge advantage? Because obviously 2 of the tests are at altitude, aren't they?
Yeah, I do. I think it takes a while to get used to it. And you guys will know, one of the key things with playing top class sport, I think any sport, is kind of fitness, because it allows you to think. So if
don't know anything about it, mate. Don't know anything about it.
But you were fit in your mind, Goody.
Yeah.
No, I think the key part in staying calm and delivering, on all the skills and the physical part of it is actually being able to think clearly. That's the hardest part, because you're blowing 5 or 10 minutes earlier than you normally would be. You're kind of saying, geez, am I going to be able to get through this? The ball flies a little bit further. That makes it difficult for back 3 guys. People chasing things. It's just an odd enough. It takes you a couple of training sessions to get your feet, but then getting your bearings in a test match is very, very different, because of the pace, and they're used to it. And Ellis Park as well. I don't know if many people will know, Johannesburg is actually very high altitude as well. So that's actually a tough place to play your rugby as well. So it is very difficult. I'm disappointed. I should have looked at this, but I'm pretty sure there's no test in Loftus Versfeld. I haven't looked at it in a while.
There's two in Joburg, isn't there?
Yeah. So I think it is.
Cape Town.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a challenge for guys, and it will take them a bit of time to get used to it. But they will be using those masks, and they'll use the oxygen chambers to try and at least simulate some of the difficulty that people will have acclimatizing to the level above sea. So I'm hoping that that'll mitigate it a little bit, but it'll still be a shock to them. And the key part again is staying calm in those moments where the game is going at breakneck speed. They're unbelievably physical and committed on home soil. There's something about playing in South Africa. I mean, New Zealand will know. They've never, was it 96 was the first time they'd won a series out there in, I think it was ever. So if they're finding it pretty hard out there, it's people coming from Northern Hemisphere who aren't playing them as regularly, it's a huge change, and it's like nothing you'll ever experience. They're a bit crazy out there actually, and they're so committed that it can be a bit overwhelming. They can overwhelm you at the start of the game. I think that happened in part of the first test. They overwhelmed us physically, at the start of the game, and we came back, and obviously the few opportunities that we maybe didn't capitalize on. But I still think that was a real shock to the system. So there are the things that they'll all be experiencing and that they'll have to be thinking about before, and prepare your mind for those moments where you're going to be out of breath more than you've ever known, but still have to be in the middle of a game and thinking clearly and delivering on the strategy. And that's the big challenge in South Africa, one of the biggest challenges, definitely.
Luke, let's chat about something that some of the listeners might not realise. And again, I don't think I really understood it until this year, was around the narrative around the British and Irish Lions, and the disaster is a strong word, but off the back of the 2005 tour and the 2001 tour, there was a lot of pressure on you guys in 2009 to save face. And I know you lost that game, the second test, which was important, but the way that you lads played, obviously won the third test, arguably saved the romance and the traditions and the importance of what the Lions stands for.
Yeah, I think so. I suppose in my own mind, I got dropped for that one, Jim. So I was a bit like,
cheers, Jim, mate. Jim, why have you been horrible?
Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah.
No, but I think they made a lot of changes for that one. I actually felt like I didn't have a good game myself or anything like that in the second, but I thought the second test, it's funny. There's a few people in work who've mentioned that game to me. Not even big rugby fans. Some of them are huge rugby fans, but they always mention that second test, and I felt like it was a knife edge. And I think that to my mind, after 2005, particularly where it was a huge blowout, you know what I mean? That was a good tonking they got down there. It just needed to be a close one. It needed to be a real competition. I felt like the first and second test probably solidified that. And the third test was brilliant because, as you say, to get the win down there, you had to come away with something. It was important, but I really felt like the second test was the key one because at the end of the day, it finished on a kick at the end, like an unbelievable kick over the halfway line. And the scenes at the end, the elation and the disappointment, like that's what the supporters out there rallied around us unbelievably after that second test. Which, you think maybe, oh geez, they've lost the series, but they really did rally around us, Jim. And I felt like that was really the key part because people can buy into that when they see the effort, when they see how much it meant to everyone, people like, on the floor, people, crying at the end of it, having given everything. That to my mind was probably what really sealed that love affair. And you can see that it's really flourished since that, and I think, New Zealand's a very tough place to go, but I think the way they performed in the last tour was admirable. And obviously getting the Australian win as well. Like we're back. It's a part of the rugby fixture now, the Lions tour. And that's really important because I think it's, while we want to change things and we want to, keep progressing and getting more eyeballs on the sport, the Lions is one of those things that I think is definitely a big attraction to rugby. It draws eyeballs from all over the place, bar our World Cup. This is something that is really special and unique to our game. So I'm glad that, the last 3 tours, I think, have really solidified that love affair, and it's here to stay, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the things that's come out recently, John Schmidt spoke to me after I actually went and played for the Sharks the year after that tour. Yeah. And he said that the Lions boys turned down going into the changing rooms having beers with South African boys after the game. Is that true? I can't believe that because those boys are so hospitable. It's unbelievable.
Get it. I don't think we got it, Goodey. So we were kind of like, we got the invite came and there was a real tradition down there, but we didn't know that. So I think maybe there was a bit of like, you're Sean Edwards in the it's like it was very much the battle lines were drawn. We were in our trench. So there might have been a little bit of that, but I think they were actually, I think, quite offended by that. Yeah. And we didn't realize. I wouldn't have been one of those people that I wasn't one of the first invited in there. Probably wouldn't have the likes of Paulie or one of those lads who were a bit of crack on the piss. But we definitely would have gone in. I mean, it was quite friendly and cordial after, but we didn't realize that that's the kind of vibe down there in the Southern Hemisphere after the game.
It's a big thing. Yeah,
it is. We didn't realize.
Did you say that you lost an eye? Did you say to the boys, "I can't come in. Someone's pulled my eye out"?
A patch of my eye. Yeah. Look. It's a weird one. We were disappointed afterwards that we heard that was a tradition in there and we hadn't upheld that. I think, well, that was definitely my view on it anyway. I think some others were kind of maybe a bit like, there might have been a bit of bad blood and a few nasty enough challenges. I think Adam Jones' challenge, the backies challenge on Adam Jones, probably everyone was hurting bad after the Shock Burger one on me. I mean, like I remember we were the piss up. There was a huge piss up after the game, after the second test, after we lost it. And I had to go. The lads were like, no, like do a job with him. Like he deserves it. I just, I had no interest at that stage. And I remember sitting in a room with Backies and Shock Burger. And I was like, they were both obviously come in, like hadn't slept like a wink. And they were still fairly merry. And I'm in there kind of miserable, missing out in the piss up with our guys and the team after the game and having to give evidence to try and get this guy a ban. It was a weird enough dynamic after in that respect. There was a little bit of bad blood and disappointment about the ref's decision on that one. And then it probably manifested itself in a probably not a great way. But look, that's what happens. When it means a lot, people get emotions run high. So yeah, that was probably I haven't really told that story to anyone, but it was really odd sitting there, like having a conversation with the two of them and going into a room like literally 5 feet away to give evidence against him and be like, well, yeah, like, I mean, I don't know what you want me to say. It's fair, it's on tape. It did happen. Um,
And is that when he gave you your eyeball back at the disciplinary hearing?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was. It was bizarre enough, to be honest with you. It was a lonely enough setting with the two big boys in there. So, but
Luke, it is your eye back, my China.
thanks a lot, Brew. Yeah, it was a bizarre enough one. I still think it's funny. That's one of the most disappointing things in my whole career. I still think back on that match. I made an error for the first try. I think it was JP Peterson might have run in, and I didn't bite in on something, and it still haunts me. And obviously, then that they got away with the Schaufberger red card at the start. Like, it's one you'd love to get back, but look, there's loads of them, and I'm sure you lads will have one or two of them as well. That's the one I think about the most post career.
All right, well, thank you very much for coming on the show, and enjoy watching the tour. Both eyes open, mate.
Yeah, exactly. Cheers, lads. Thanks for having me on.
Mate, he's a good bloke, is Luke. And I think the thing is, people forget, like, the TMO must have been having a pill or something when he's getting his eyeball ripped out by Schaufberger. It was a disgrace, wasn't it, in reality? And is Schauk that sort of player? Clearly he was, because it was obvious as anything. But
it's weird because with Schaufberger, and I'm going to say this on record, when he came to Saracens, when he came to Saracens, I'm thinking, like, I don't like the look of this bloke. And I think many people thought the same as me because I was hard as nails.
Watch your eyes.
Yeah, but there are certain things, and I don't know the story. And I'm mates with Schaufberger now. I would say that I'm mates. We used to sit on the foam rollers and watching Mauro Toji squat 200, and I was basically rolling me back, and he was on his phone. But it was weird to see that kind of unfold, then meet the bloke himself. And I think Backy's is the same. Whenever you speak to Backy's, I mean, he looks like Goodey. He's eating you 3 times now, but
he has. Yeah, he's a big old boy, isn't he?
But that's the thing. When you play against the South Africans, and I've played against South Africa, and I won't say who, but someone gouged me playing against South Africa, and no word of a lie, from a kickoff, thumb straight in the eye, first kickoff of the game. They've obviously gone for the enforcer. I can't see, pal. I've played 60 minutes and I cannot see. I've gone fucking blurred vision. Anyway, it's not about me. It's about
Who was it? You can't just leave it on there.
I'm not telling you.
But you told me off air it was Victor Matfield. So
it definitely wasn't Victor. Let's just that's what I was going to say. But it's part of not gouging, but that kind of physicality. Shocking. Is the way that they play, like off the ball, like fucking dirty, hard as nails. Like, that's what it is. That's what they do. Like, look, they're different now. Look at
you can't do it now, can you?
Yeah, you can't. But look at Sale, right? And the Dupree boys. Look at Jasper Wiese at Leicester. Yeah. Like, look at any South African player playing anywhere. They're fucking monsters. Like they are. Like, they're just hard as nails. However hard looks. Look at 97. Look at 95. Look at the games that they played in the 90s when they're double footing players in rucks. They play within the parameters of what is almost acceptable, bar obviously the gouge in that game to Luke Fitzgerald. And that's going to be the big thing for the Lions going down there, is one is going down there, and a lot of them haven't experienced playing down in South Africa against South Africa. Obviously England with the World Cup, Wales as well. But actually playing in South Africa, and Goodey, you've played there, and I've played there as well. It is different, like Luke said. It's different playing there against these guys who are just so physical, and it means so much.
Yeah, the big disappointment for me is the fact that there's no fans there, because we've said it before, we'll say it again. It is the most unbelievable country to tour and play in. Whether you're a fan, whether you're a player, the packed stadiums. You want that. You want the packed stadiums, or you want to experience Africa as a country. It's unbelievable. The hospitality of it is, and that was the big thing. So I went and signed for the Sharks February after the Lions tour in the summer in 2009. And I've got there and they're like, oh, he's an English bloke, he won't be hospitable. Little did they know.
Next thing.
I'm trying to leave the charge on the piss. And that, it is a big thing going into the opposition changing room afterwards and having beers with them. It was unbelievable. It's one of the best times I've ever had in my life in terms of playing rugby. And that's where, you've got to park what's happening on the rugby field. And for Luke, it's very difficult when someone's ripped your eyeball out like that. And Jim, you always said there's a few things you don't do. Eyeballs and testicles are just no. So, rush of blood to the head for Schaufberger. Hopefully we don't see anything like that again. But we know they're going to be hard, aren't they?
South Africa named their widest squad to face the Lions on Saturday. What do you make of it? Anyone there that you weren't expecting?
Well, first and foremost, I think they've named every South African qualified player possible in the biggest squad ever. Secondly, Morné Steyn, he gives us all hope. How's he still getting picked for South Africa?
Because
12 years after he kicked that kick. Yeah, 12 years
That's
after he kicked that kick. But apparently he's been tearing up trees for the Bulls. He must be about, I thought he was older than me, Morné Steyn, but clearly not. He went over to Stade Francais, took a load of Euros, played like an absolute, I was going to say
giraffe. A giraffe without legs or a giraffe without a neck?
Yeah, I mean, he played like he didn't want to be there, to be honest. But he's one of those players that gone back to South Africa, and you know that they love their country, and he's gone back to the Bulls where it all started for him. He's playing well. I was surprised by him, but then they actually haven't got that much depth at 10. Obviously, Yankees is in the squad, and Pollard will be first choice. But yeah, every South African player that can qualify for them is in the squad. The Dupree boys are in it. Fantastic news.
My goodness me. It just shows you how good the Prem is again, isn't it? I don't know if I mentioned it before with the F word, but it shows the physicality of the Premiership is obviously something they're going to look at. And we talk about the South African lads not playing much rugby. Some of them will arguably be primed with the amount of rugby they've played this year.
And the flip side of it, they've lost potentially, and we don't know how bad it is yet, but Vermeulen went off with an ankle injury at the weekend. The reports are it's not the best. So, we'll see. There's plenty of big, beefy South Africans, though, to come in for him. So,
well, they were talking about Marcel Coetzee from Ulster, him not making the squad because it would have been a similar like for like. But yeah, I mean, what's a like for like? A monster for a monster.
All right, well, let's move on to social media then. And Goodey, you put a tweet out that went viral, as Jim would say, on the weekend.
Of course he did.
I saw the footage of Jake Ball and Alan Jones throwing some pretty hefty handbags at each other. I just thought the masses want to see it, don't they? And it went viral. Had about 50,000 likes on it. So, it looked like a pretty tasty encounter. Jake Ball bags giving him a quick slap early on, and then boom, boom, boom. They're both having a go. I think Jake Ball wins that, don't they?
I love how Ken Owens has just stood there just thinking, like, what's happening here? Do not KO Alan Wynne-Jones, Jake Ballbag, but he nearly did. And look, he's a man who knows how to send a shot and take a shot. Jake Ballbag sent a few decent shots in there as well. And Alan Wynne-Jones, if a man can take them, he can take them.
Well, Ian Wheeler actually tweeted who was filled in better, Alan Wynne-Jones by Jake Ball or Jim by Big Dev.
Well, there's not much video evidence of mine and Big Dev's. Luckily, he's had it taken down. So I don't know what contacts he's got on YouTube or social media, but I'll tell you what, off the back of this, some of the old lads from Scotland might end up digging out some archive footage because there's a few horrors in there. And I mean horrors in terms of embarrassing scraps from my time. It's one of them. Like, if you're Jake Ballbag, like, how hard are you punching Alan Wynne-Jones there? It's a test match week. I think they had England that week. How hard are you punching? Because I was worried. I didn't want to punch me. Like, you want to tag them. You know, you don't want to make light of punching people in the head and all that. I get that. But, you know, back then, you could. I'd more go for the kind of slap or the grab. You don't want to hurt people for a test match, do you? Silly.
Thanks, Goodey. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, producer Tim. And thank you very much for listening. Don't forget to check us out on YouTube and head on over to Spotify, and we'll see you there.
Tell them about that. Rugby Spot.
Spotted pod.